Good day. With many games, you can't really tell much from their covers. For example, Halo 3 is just a blue 3, and it doesn't say Halo anywhere on here except for on the spine. Now, with Dead Space, you actually do get the title, but you also get just a severed hand. I mean, that doesn't tell you anything about the game at all. Now, there are, of course, exceptions to this rule. The most notable would have to be Turok the Dinosaur Hunter.
Just look at this cartridge label. Have you ever seen a more awesome image? I mean, you get a Native American man with a knife about to gut a velociraptor. And then look at the title itself, Turok the Dinosaur Hunter. What could be more exciting than hunting down dinosaurs?
So let's pop in Turok the Dinosaur Hunter and take a look.
When you enter the game proper, you are given no story whatsoever outside of the mission objective of locating the hub ruins, whatever they may be, and finding level keys.
Now really, at no time do you know where you are, why you're there, or who it is you're fighting. It's just find the keys, get to an exit, and kill anything that moves.
The graphics are really quite good for the time, although the view distance is not very far. This would be common in a large number of N64 games. Now, the distance fog does make the game a bit more exciting when you have various enemies really coming out of nowhere. The enemies all look really good as well, and have a high polygon count. The only problem with that is that does restrict the number of enemies that can be on screen at one time. The texture work is fairly decent, if a little monotonous. The water is also highly detailed for the time, and when you actually swim through it, you'll notice a number of fish swimming about as well. Sound design is also really good, with just a huge number of background sounds, like T-Rex roars, lion snarls, and things of that nature. However, it does all sound somewhat compressed. Now, another good aspect of Turok is the music. It fits the game really, really well, and is some of the best music in a game like this that I have ever really heard.
Turok's control scheme was really ahead of its time. These days, first-person shooters utilize the two thumbsticks, but the N64 had just the one. Now, Turok got around just the one thumbstick by using the C buttons to move and this to look, thus being pretty much an ancestor of modern console first-person shooters. Turok's control scheme really allowed for greater movement and finer control than had previously been seen on console first-person shooters.
You start the game in front of a campfire, armed with two weapons, a knife and a bow and arrow. And no, you can't kill the monkey. I have tried for 10 years, and I still can't terminate that beast. Now, you come to a bridge with these little gold triangles on it. They act like the coins did in Super Mario. You collect enough of them and you get extra lives.
You would really think that by this point, developers would have foregone the use of lives. And also, you can save in this game, thus making the whole lives thing rather pointless.
After that, you come to... Wait. That's the White House. This wasn't the Lost Land. It's been Earth. All the time. You maniacs! You blew it up! Damn you! God damn you all! Oh wait, it's just a rock formation. Never mind. False alarm. Your overall objective is fairly straightforward. You go around and collect keys, which Turok holds up like they were something special. And for a while, I thought they were water containers. Now, gameplay is a fairly straightforward first-person shooter, with a huge degree of exploration. There is really just a huge amount of things that you can find in this game. There are some minor platforming elements, and this is where the controls do feel a little stiff, and sometimes you will miss your mark. Really, the platforming elements are the weakest part of the game. Level progression is tied to the hub ruins, which are basically just a number of single-address stargates. Even the portal effect looks like the Stargate Event Horizon. Now really, why would the Alterans build these stargates here? And even then, for what purpose would they really serve?
I guess with the Alterans, building stargates is really just sort of a hobby for them.
You progress through the game by collecting keys, which I guess are chevrons. When you place them in the DHD, the Stargate opens, and you can continue on. You have a total of 8 levels, and the levels themselves are quite large. It's really easy to get lost and turned around, but there is a map, and it does actually work really well, and it's probably the most useful tool in the game. The levels are somewhat varied, but most of the time you will find that they all look at least a little alike. It's not enough to make the game boring or repetitive, but the levels will begin to look rather familiar. Although the last level is a bit different, since you're fighting through an alien starship, and it does look a little bit more technological, rather than Junglescape. And there are some levels that you have to fight through an ancient temple, and various things like that. In addition to the main levels, you will also encounter random dimensional rifts that look like the portals from Sliders. They will allow you to enter bonus stages that will usually have extra lives and ammo. Although you do have to wonder, what if one of those dimensional rifts took you someplace really random?
The place where you're supposed to have the toilet paper, you got this little shelf with 3 seashells on it.
What? Seashells? Ah!
Probably the most famous aspect of Turok the Dinosaur Hunter is the massive arsenal that you can wield. Although that does beg the question, just how are you carrying all of them?
He doesn't have a backpack, or anything that even has pockets.
Now it doesn't show it, but I can only assume he's using what is called a light burden. Now this is a Type 98 multiphasic transportation unit. It's basically the size of a small bag, and it utilizes a multiphasic mat-trans field that then is utilized to create a micro-singularity that compresses down all of his weapons into a small mass that allows him to simply think of a weapon, reach into the bag, and pull it out.
I suppose he only has to pick up weapons so that the bag can scan them and thus store them in its quantum matrix. You start the game off with a knife, and it will kill weaker enemies in a single hit, and if you are low on ammo, it is useful. The bow is a fairly decent ranged weapon that can be upgraded with explosive tech arrows. Generally, you will want to keep this weapon in reserve so that you have a last-ditch ranged weapon. The basic pistol is better than nothing, but you will probably only want to use it in very desperate situations. The basic shotgun, aside from being graphically complex, is a good all-around general-purpose weapon, and works really well for pretty much all of the weak or moderate enemies. The model for this gun is a little idiotic, especially seeing as how it doesn't even have a stock. And also, the feed mechanism is exposed. The weapon itself is just a shotgun that fires a bit faster. I would recommend using this weapon if you get explosive shells, as its faster firing rate will make a difference when facing stronger enemies. Probably the best weapon is the general-purpose assault rifle. This weapon is good for just about any enemy outside of bosses or heavily armed and armored enemies. Its ammo is rather abundant, and its firepower is sufficient to get you through just about any skirmish. However, its main virtue is that it lets you conserve your shotgun ammo. The plasma assault rifle is probably the second best weapon in the game. Where the assault rifle is useful for weak to moderate enemies, the plasma assault rifle is good on just about any enemy up to and including the more heavily armed and armored enemies. Its high cyclic rate makes it a good weapon to use when you need to circle strafe an extremely strong enemy. Its firepower is sufficient enough to kill most moderate enemies in just 1 or 2 hits. The chain gun, while ammo greedy, is a good weapon to use when dealing with multiple opponents. And it is a good last resort heavy weapon. The grenade launcher, a good weapon to use when dealing with extremely hard to kill enemies. The grenade launcher has both firepower and cyclic rate going for it. I would recommend using this as your general heavy weapon. The manted cannon is okay. It doesn't do that much more damage than the plasma assault rifle, but its burst radius does allow you to be a little less accurate. The rocket launcher is a weapon that you want to use on hard to kill enemies, especially ones that you want to die first. The freeze gun is a good weapon to use on just about any mid-range enemy. Just try not to have any Batman and Robin flashbacks. The Quantum Interphase Destroyer, or as it is informally known, the End of the World Gun. Due to the lack of ammo, I would recommend using it on bosses only. The Quantum Interphase Cannon is a weapon for those that need more power than the End of the World Gun can provide. I recommend using sunglasses when firing. Now, there are a number of power-ups, but probably the most infamous would have to be Spirit Mode, a form of invincibility that harkens back to the days when disco wasn't dead.
I've got to boogie on the disco ride.
The first enemy that you come into contact with is a cyborg wearing a green skivvy shirt and brandishing a machete. He can be killed in about 1 microsecond.
It seems that in all of these games, the main bad guy always has this massive army of clones at their disposal. And you would think that after seeing wave after wave after wave just brutally slaughtered, that they would move on to the Thrawn method of cloning and actually using competent soldiers as their clone templates.
They are armed with a variety of weapons, from knives to polearms, and to various projectile weapons. They won't pose much of a threat unless they are in large numbers. As the title would suggest, you also have to fight a number of dinosaurs. Now, they range from basic raptors to dimetrodons to gigantic triceratopses. Of course, these triceratopses are armed with rocket launchers. In addition, the raptors are sometimes armed with plasma cannons, and the dimetrodons will also sometimes have machine guns mounted on their back.
This is like Jurassic Park all over again, except this time they can shoot back!
You also have to face a number of purlin that somehow have the physical strength to hit the ground so hard that they can create a shockwave that can hurt you. There are also a small number of mantids. They are rather dangerous because they can fly, making killing them rather difficult. You should probably use the chain gun or the auto shotgun. Also, they will sometimes self-destruct if you shoot them right.
Okay, these next enemies are a little strange. They're techno-organic skeletons, and while their appearance is not all that odd, their method of attack is.
They fire a yellow energy beam out of their crotch.
See, that's why you should never drink energy drinks, because they're going to make you urinate plasma beams.
They are fairly tough, so I would recommend just using the plasma assault rifle on them. On the last level, you have to face a number of robots. Now, these robots are just stupid looking. It seems like they were running out of enemy ideas, and they were trying too hard to come up with something menacing. Outside of their appearance, they are somewhat difficult to kill. They are armed with a homing missile and a large blade. You will also have to face another kind of robot that sort of looks like RoboCop crossed with a 50s robot. They aren't all that strong. They're pretty much the same as the cyborgs you had to face earlier, except they are sometimes armed with electrostaffs. The first boss that you have to kill is the Long Hunter. Why he wants to kill you? Who knows? Why he is there? Who cares? The first things that you have to destroy are 2 Humvees, one unarmed and one armed. The Long Hunter himself is a direct rip of a character from Metal Slug. You kill him, take his plasma gun, and get a key, thus leaving our Mordrin field commander to lick his wounds and get killed another day. The praying mantis boss looks rather scary and is highly detailed. It has a variety of attacks, such as a claw swipe, acid shot, and cluster bomb. As you wear him down, he will start knocking down walls and flying around. And here we are, ladies and gentlemen, the single greatest boss of all time, the T-Rex. Although this is no ordinary Rex. Oh no, he is a mutated cyborg T-Rex. He is outfitted with a clubbed tail, fire breath, and laser eye. And of course, he is a T-Rex.
You know, they need to make a movie about this T-Rex. They could call it The Termarex or T-Rex Judgment Day.
He is a very difficult boss to defeat, and as well he should be, because he is, after all, a mutated cyborg T-Rex. This really has to be one of the most enjoyable boss battles on the N64. At the end of every boss battle, you see Turok do this little pose with his knife like he's some kind of arrogant bastard.
Now, it's not arrogance if it's true.
After you put down the Mutarex, you are transported to some room where you pick up the Chronoscepter. After you pick up the Chronoscepter, whatever that might imply, you walk down an extremely long tunnel that serves the purpose of getting you psyched up for the final battle. With a build-up like this, whatever you're going to face is going to be 10 times more awesome than that piddly Mutarex. I mean, you even pass a number of dangling corpses on the way. After walking about 6 miles through bland identical corridors, you finally reach this very elaborate Mat Trans unit. you step through the Mat Trans unit and enter the final battle with a Tiki Man with a mace.
That's what all that build-up was for? A Tiki Man with a mace? Oh well, not much else they could have done. I mean, you can't top a mutated cyborg T-Rex!
The battle is fairly straightforward. Just remember to use projectile weapons, as energy weapons don't work all that well. You kill the campaigner, run through a long corridor, jump out into a pool of water, and get game over.
Yeah, that's it. Just Turok running down a long corridor, jumping into some water, and the end. But was this supposed to be the bad ending? Did I not collect something? Did I not finish it in time? What? Well, more accurately, the developers probably chose that since they didn't have a story to begin with, they weren't going to end on one either.
In any event, Turok the Dinosaur Hunter was a huge success that spawned an entire franchise. Turok 2 The Seeds of Evil would fix just about every problem with Turok 1, and probably was the best FPS on the system. There would be other sequels, but none of them could match the popularity of the first two.
Turok endures even to this day, with the 2008 release of Turok. I can only assume he removed the Dinosaur Hunter moniker so as to be more PC.
The game introduced a sci-fi action plot, and also featured some new gameplay mechanics that really worked with the overall Turok theme rather well. Overall, the game was faithful to the source material, and deserved every bit the name Turok.
In the end, Turok the Dinosaur Hunter was one of the best games for the Nintendo 64. It was well made, with an innovative control scheme. It was lengthy, and provided numerous hours of gameplay. So, this is General Lotz, wishing you good Turok 2. Good Turok. Or whatever makes you happy.